Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story, 4 in 5 U.S. police or fire department officers use drones from a Chinese military company. Lawmakers fear the devices could send live imagery of U.S. military installations to China. What's stopping them from ousting the drones from American skies? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accusing Beijing of working hard to prevent countries from going to a peace summit, but which world leaders are being pressured to stay away. China arrests 2 citizens accused of spying for Britain. The case is part of a series of allegations tied to high-level espionage by China and Britain. And Donald Trump is now on TikTok, an app he once called a national security threat and tried to ban when he was in office. What made Trump join the app?
The president is now on TikTok. It's my honor.
Could Beijing source live snapshots of U.S. military infrastructure from drones? Lawmakers are pushing bills to stop that from happening, but they face one major obstacle. Over on Capitol Hill, a bill is moving through Congress. If passed, it would block Chinese drone maker DJI from accessing U.S. communication networks. The Chinese company is the world's largest drone maker and controls over half of the U.S. drone market. But the effort to phase out DJI drones faces one big problem. DJI drones are really popular. They're incredibly inexpensive for consumers and outdo U.S. products in terms of features and functionality. Besides consumers, a survey shows about 4 in 5 U.S. police or fire departments use DJI drones. That's for criminal investigation and search and rescue missions. A search and rescue coordinator in Utah said American drones still lag behind DJI when it comes to search and rescue. He said he could give actual names of American citizens that would have perished if he was forced to use an American drone. But lawmakers have other concerns in mind. They fear these drones could act as eyes in the sky for Beijing, snapping photos of U.S. military facilities and critical infrastructure. Chinese law can compel Chinese companies to hand over their data to authorities if they ask for it.
DJI drones, for example, you can't turn the rotors without authenticating your phone to the DJI network, which means your phone and all the contents you have given very easy access to the Ministry of State Security when you authenticate your phone to the DJI network.
In 2022, the Pentagon blacklisted DJI for being a Chinese military company, meaning its technology is made in a way that could support the Chinese military. DJI denies the allegation. Backed by state subsidies, DJI drones are sold far cheaper than their U.S. counterparts. A typical American-made drone sells in the $13,000 to $15,000 range. Some DJI drones retail for as little as half that price. Still, several states are pushing to ban DJI drones from their skies, with Florida leading the charge. Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas passed similar rules, while Oklahoma and Arizona have introduced bills targeting Chinese drones. Zooming out, drones aren't the only Chinese products flooding the U.S. market. There are also Chinese electric vehicles, batteries, solar panels, and cargo cranes that dominate the American landscape. President Biden has ordered investigations into Chinese-made smart cars over concerns they could spy on Americans. A Chinese trade group is seeking to buy special drone equipment on behalf of Russia. The U.S. and most European countries have repeatedly warned Beijing to not support Russia with dual-use equipment. That's because the civilian gear could help Moscow's military.
The Chinese state-owned group is called the Guangdong Province Trade Promotion Association for Russia. It first shared the announcement 2 weeks ago. The statement said the group sought to buy drone jamming equipment for Russia. A Russian drone maker has said the equipment is used on the front lines in war. The gear is also capable of interrupting communications and some drone functions. Despite warnings from the West, China has insisted the products are dual use, meaning they have both civilian and military applications. Worth noting, drones have played a critical role in Russia's war with Ukraine. A cheap drone can destroy a cutting-edge tank on the modern battlefield. The second top U.S. Treasury official said 4 days ago that Chinese firms must choose between trading with Western countries or continuing to funnel supplies to Russia. More about the Chinese buyer, the group was only set up last year with the goal of helping purchase Chinese products on behalf of Russian customers. China has increased military and economic engagement with Russia since the war broke out.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is accusing China of pressuring other countries to skip a peace conference in Switzerland. Here's his statement at the recent Asian Defense Summit.
Russia, using Chinese influence in the region, using Chinese diplomats also, is doing everything to disrupt the peace summit. Regrettably, this is very unfortunate that such a big, independent, powerful country as China is an instrument in the hands of Putin.
Switzerland is set to host the international summit next weekend. The focus is Zelensky's peace proposals, which require Moscow to withdraw all its troops from Ukraine. China proposed a different plan earlier this year, which aligns with Moscow's goals. China claims to have a neutral position on the war. The U.S. and most of Europe see its position as pro-Russian. That's due to the close defense engagement and increasing trade between Beijing and Moscow, especially after Western sanctions on Russia following the invasion of Ukraine. China has indicated that its officials won't attend the summit. Russia is not invited. U.S. President Joe Biden hasn't said if he'll participate. China's top intelligence agency is now accusing a Chinese couple of spying for Britain. The announcement comes after the UK charged at least 4 men of spying for China in the past 2 months. China's Ministry of State Security posted on social media Monday, saying it uncovered a major espionage case involving 2 Chinese citizens allegedly recruited by Britain's foreign intelligence agency MI6. The couple was identified by their surnames Wang and Zhou. According to the Post, the 2 reportedly worked for China's Central State Agency. They allegedly collected the Chinese regime's state secrets and handed them over to the UK. Beijing said the investigation is still ongoing and did not disclose further information. London hasn't commented on the matter. The accusations come as tensions rise between China and the UK. The 2 countries have clashed over the Chinese Communist regime's suppression of free speech and open elections in Hong Kong, a former British territory. 2 competing military strategies in critical region of international waters. Over the weekend, top defense officials from the U.S. and China offered their own security visions in the Indo-Pacific. Speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin touted Washington's vast network of partnerships in the region. Washington recently ramped up defense cooperation with a number of Pacific nations, including Australia, Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. Austin said this is, quote, just a starting point, and that more powerful maneuvers are expected. China, on the other hand, claimed that it is working to arm and provide military training to allies and partners, including those in the Indo-Pacific. Another flashpoint during the weekend meeting, Taiwan. Without mentioning the U.S. by name, a Beijing official said the island is a matter best left in the hands of regional countries. About 2 weeks ago, China staged a round of military drills around Taiwan after the island's new president was inaugurated. The communist regime sees the democratic island as a breakaway territory and has vowed to annex it by force if necessary. That's despite never having ruled it. Could there be a different motive between China's global currency ambitions? Experts suggest that China's de-dollarization effort is defensive rather than offensive. Western sanctions are targeting Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. Those penalties have sparked fear in Beijing that similar measures could hit China if it takes action in Taiwan. To discuss, we tapped General Robert Spalding, retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General and author of War Without Rules. General Spalding, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Thanks. Great to be back.
Now, recently, the U.S. has been accusing China of aiding Russia in its invasion of Ukraine, warning that China could be facing more sanctions from the U.S. as well as NATO. Now, a Business Insider report notes that China's push to turn the yuan into a global currency isn't actually driven by domination. It's about sanctions. What's your view on this?
I don't think the yuan can be a global currency because the Chinese aren't going to ever allow it to float. And as soon as they allowed that currency to float, they would see massive capital flight because there's so many companies now within China that are trying to get their money out. But because the Bank of China is the only one that can actually convert that currency, none of them are being allowed to bring their money out. And so I think, this talk about China being a reserve currency is just that. It's just talk.
To your point, actually, recent data from China's central bank is showing that even Chinese businesses aren't really sold on this whole yuan issue, as they're holding back on converting their foreign exchange funds to the yuan. Given that, what is the trajectory of China's de-dollarization push?
Recently, it's been to take their treasuries and convert those into gold. I think this is a result of what they saw happen to Russia after they invaded Ukraine. Basically, they have to make sure that if the U.S. cuts off Chinese banks from the U.S. financial system, that they're somehow able to convert their goods and services to currency that they can actually spend.
Now, shifting gears a bit, when it comes to information, a recent report by the Wall Street Journal is noting that the U.S. fears undersea cables may be vulnerable to espionage from Chinese repair ships, saying that Google, Meta, and others partially own these cables, but they all rely on maintenance ships, many of which are owned by the CCP. Now, what kind of information could China be getting here?
Well, certainly they could get anything that was unencrypted. Much of the application data today is encrypted, but all of that can be cracked once you have a quantum computer that's sufficiently powerful enough to crack 256K encryption, which is what a lot of it is reliant on. That's why there's a big push for quantum resistant encryption. We're still in early days. But it's not just from the cables themselves or maintenance. It's all, overseas communications are going through switches that are made by Huawei, for example. So I think what they're trying to do is vacuum up as much of this encrypted data as they can in anticipation of the time when they have a powerful enough quantum computer to break that encryption, and then they'll have full access to that.
General Spalding, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Switching gears to cyberspace, former President Donald Trump just joined TikTok, an app he attempted to ban during his presidency. Take a look at this.
The president is now on TikTok. It's my honor.
Vowing to gain more young supporters ahead of the November 5th election, Trump launched a TikTok account on Saturday night with a video of him greeting the crowd at UFC 302. Trump's debut video on the app has been played nearly 68 million times. It brought him 4.2 million followers in just over a day as of Monday afternoon. The move comes after a New York jury found the former president guilty of all 34 accusations in a New York criminal trial. Trump tried to ban TikTok with an executive order when he was in the White House, citing national security concerns. But earlier this year, he shifted his views, saying banning the app could boost other platforms like Meta's Facebook, which he describes as the enemy of the people. Coming up, doctors against forced organ harvesting take their message to the street after the American Transplant Congress refused to give them a booth. We hear from rally-goers outside the event.
We've been working on this for so long, who have colleagues in there right now, and they just denied us, just blocked us.
And NTD's International Martial Arts Competition is coming to the U.S. this fall after preliminary rounds in Germany and Taiwan. We take a closer look at the competition and the values it's trying to promote. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The American Transplant Congress is underway in Philadelphia, and an organization is standing up against forced organ harvesting. This year, the forum refused a booth to the group, Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting, so the group of doctors set up outside the conference anyway. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on their effort.
Voices will help to stop this.
The American Transplant Congress is underway at the Philadelphia Convention Center. This year, the annual conference refused Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting a booth.
I've been working on this for so long, who have colleagues in there right now, and they just denied us, just blocked us. So I really wanted to come here. I knew we wouldn't be able to be inside.
The organization called DAFO has spent around 17 years exposing the Chinese regime's forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience, compiling data and witness testimony of horrific industrial-scale abuse.
The one thing I want to help people know the truth, but I also want to help bring the Chinese Communist Party to justice to stop these heinous crimes against humanity. You can't just kill people for their organs while they're alive. Even if it's a prisoner, it's illegal. And these are prisoners of conscience. These are Falun Gong, Tibetans, Uyghurs, and Christians. So it needs to stop, and I just want to be part of that. Wherever it is in the world, I want to be part of that.
Delaware State Representative Mike Ramone, rallying with DAFO, said the outcome will be obvious when people are aware.
It needs to be stopped. We need to use any kind of political influence to A, educate and stop the people from our country participating, but B, to stop the behavior and the practice in their country. We do it everywhere. We're supposed to be the beacon of humanity in our country. This is our chance to shine that light.
To stop this inhuman act.
Congressional candidate Aaron Beshear says he wants the U.S. to take solid steps against the CCP.
It needs to be stopped and it needs to be condemned, and that's why I'm here.
He wants to see accountability.
Evil prevails when good people don't do anything about it. And right now we are saying that the evil is prevailing in China by this Chinese Communist Party. It's involved in these inhuman acts. They are forcing the organ harvesting. It is bad.
Truck driver and YouTube sensation Larry Daigle was passing by to do a video and learn more.
It's crazy. It's just not, I have other words for it, but we can't use those.
He said he's only heard of organ harvesting once or twice before.
Now I got a lot more to work with, so I'm real happy with that.
When I discuss with my medical colleagues.
Dr. Alejandro Centurion, DAFO Associate Director of Medical Affairs, said he was disappointed the conference refused them, but expects that to change next year.
These crimes cannot continue. The crime of forced organ harvesting has been taking place in China now for over 20 years.
Centurion says the booth was still very effective outside.
We've had many doctors stop by who have asked for information, many of them who have not even heard about this. And that's one of the reasons that we're very concerned that so many doctors have not even heard about these crimes. And I will tell you that even doctors from China came by our booth, took information, and one of them even signed the petition, which I know is something that could even risk his life if the Chinese government knew about that. So I was so proud and the courage he showed to sign that petition.
Local Falun Gong practitioners rallied outside with doctors to call for an end to the Chinese regime's crimes. The American Transplant Congress runs until Wednesday. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
This summer, martial artists from around the world will gather to compete for the title of Martial Arts Master. NTD's 8th annual International Martial Arts Competition aims to revive the traditions behind true martial arts and present its values to the world. Here's a closer look.
The 8th International Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Competition will begin in June, hosted and sponsored by NTD Television. The competition invites martial artists from several schools to assist in a revival of traditional martial arts and to help present its true values to the world. The competition's stated mission is to promote traditional Chinese martial arts, propagate martial morality, and revive the true, divinely inspired traditional Chinese culture.
In fact, the most important connotation of traditional Chinese martial arts is martial virtue. Martial virtue means distinguishing good from evil, believing in cause and effect, believing that good and evil will be rewarded, stopping evil and promoting good. This is the martial virtue we promote.
Traditional martial arts are known to put emphasis on the complete coordination of physical movements, strength, energy, spirit, and other factors.
Everyone knows these three things if they study them carefully. If you have all the other basic skills but don't have these three, you can't be the champion. So we don't distinguish between races, whether Chinese or Westerners or people from any other country or skin color, but you must practice traditional martial arts.
The competition will kick off its preliminary rounds this June through August, with the finals starting in September. The competition is split into men's, women's, and junior groups who compete in the weapons and/or boxing category. The winner will receive a $5,000 prize plus a sword made by a master swordsmith. Traditional Chinese martial arts has a long history and a well-developed system of theories and routines. But many of them were destroyed as the Chinese Communist Party took control of the country. The loss deeply affected martial arts master and former champion Yu Fu Li, who's also the competition's head judge.
When I was in mainland China, there were no people in Wudang and Shaolin at that time. They were all empty. After the Cultural Revolution, they were all empty. Those who moved in later were people who are new to martial arts. They live there. Just use some gymnastics, dance, or acrobatic movements to replace martial arts. It is a bit sensational and showy, but it also has its difficulty. And it can also satisfy some laymen. It looks lively, but it doesn't have the real connotation of traditional martial arts.
Preliminary rounds will begin in June for Germany and Taiwan, with rounds in the United States starting in August. The finals will be held in New Jersey on September 2nd and broadcast live online around the world. This is NTD News, New York.
Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.